Welcome to the Successful Thinking Podcast, where I will share with you the elements for a successful thinking process, and we will talk to people who have a successful thinking mindset.
Hello, welcome back to the Successful Thinking Podcast. Today I have with me one of the fastest drivers of all times in the off-road space, and he's one of the women in the forefront of changing the motorsports competition with electric vehicles. She's a championship winning driver in the off-road space with experience in snow, ice, sand, you name it, everything. She's Christine Gizzi.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Good, how are you, Christine? Welcome
Very
to
good,
Lisbon.
thank you. Oh, I love it.
Yes,
I wish I could stay more.
What are you enjoying the most out of Lisbon?
Ooh, so much. I think, okay, the food for sure. I'm crazy about food, so very important. The people, I love the energy. I feel like I'm very connected to you guys. And yeah, I think also the weather. I mean, you know, Barcelona
amazing.
is kind of the same, but it's really nice to come here and have the sun, so it's good.
Oh, nice. So, for those that don't know you a little bit, can you share? I already got to know all of this, and I really liked it. So, can you share a little bit the story? How did you become in love with becoming a driver?
Okay, I hope they don't get bored and they don't fall asleep. But So basically, in my family, no one likes cars. So I've always been like something like a black sheep, you say, no? And I always had like posters and little maquetas of Subarus all over the place. And people would come in the house and ask my mom, "Oh, you have a son?" And she's like, "Yes, Cristino." And we always had this like funny like anecdota, you know. And yeah, so I'm Italian, but I was born in India, and then we moved to Canary Islands. And when I was living in Canary Islands, I was working in a bar in the night, and in the morning I was working in an ice cream shop. So in the afternoon I was like a hippie surfer, you know. And basically one day I hear, I was in my house. I'm like, huh? What is this? So I start running outside, and I basically like sat there like like a little fish, like waiting. And then after like 2 hours, the car came back, and I was like, I don't know, like amazed. You know, I see this bright yellow road car with a lot of noise, and like woo, running off, you know, and I'm just like, ¿qué es esto? So I go back home, and you know, I couldn't sleep. All I was thinking about was the sound, the car, and so I start like.
So what emotions do you have in your mind?
Yeah, just so many at the same time, you know. So, but like the thing I thought the next day, I'm like, I need to feel it and see it again, you know. So I thought, what should I do? So basically, I decided, I thought was intelligent at that time. I was 17, okay, very young. And I thought, I'm going to sit down outside at my house every day at the same time to see if the car comes back. And effectively, after 1 week, the car came back. And it was a Toyota Corolla from 1989, A92. And this time I was like, okay, I need to do something, you know. I don't know what, but I need to do it. And of course I was very, hyperactive and impulsive. So I'm like, yes, running in the middle of the road is a great idea. So that's what I did. I ran in the middle of the road, and I was just like, para, por favor. And the guy just like, braked on me, and like the co-driver came out and was like, hey, you crazy blonde, what are you doing in the middle of the road? And I'm like, perdón, can I get in the car? And he was like, ¿qué? He's like, please. And
I can imagine someone seeing someone and then asking to get inside.
I don't know, I would have probably run over the person, you know, I don't know. Anyway, so I get in the car, and I just like super excited, hola, my name is Christine, and he was like, okay. And then I had my seatbelt on, and the guy's like, we're gonna go fast. I'm like, okay. And we just like, and then he pulls the hydraulic handbrake, you know, and the car starts turning, like drifting, and I'm just like in this little bubble of what the heck is this? And, you know, at the same time, I felt this strong, like, I don't know, feeling, adrenaline, everything all mixed together. And I kind of realized, okay, I don't know what this is, but this is my life. So when he left me back at home, I thought, okay, what is this? And he was like, oh, well, this is a rally car. And I'm like, a rally car? What the heck is a rally car? You know, so I basically got back home and started like studying, like, what is a rally car? What does a rally car do? And I started reading, and I was so amazed. And I'm like, okay, I decided I want to become a race car driver. But, you know, at that time, I was young. I didn't know what I was doing. And I mean, I was living.
Love at first sight?
Yeah, totally. And I was living like with my mom, you know, she just separated from a like really bad, you know, like a separation with my dad. So I was like, I'm not going to tell my mom I wanted to become a race car driver. So I'm like, I will just fake like I'm going to volleyball lessons. So I basically told her this, and it went on for like a few months. And I always tell everyone, please don't lie to your parents. But at that point, I think it was necessary. And yeah, so pretty much it went on like this. And then obviously, you guys know that motorsport is a very expensive sport. So I really wanted to become a race car driver, but I knew that it was very expensive. Everyone was like, are you rich? I'm like, no. So they're like, good luck then. So I thought, so if I become a mechanic, I can become a race car driver because, I fix my car, I make it, I prepare it, so it's going to be cheap. So that's what I did.
This is just one story out of millions of stories that I heard. And so I can see that your life is full of adventure. So you lived in many countries, like you said, you moved a lot to race. You basically did everything you could to chase the dream of becoming a driver. That's what we can see, the passion. So what moves you in that? Is it the adrenaline? Is it the ambition to becoming the nd1 driver? Is it the vision you have of yourself? What moves you?
I think it's a bit of everything. And also maybe that it changes during the time, like when I first saw it, the passion was moving me. Like I loved cars. Now I understood what was a rally car, and now I knew that I wanted that. So I just wanted to go there. Like I was like, horses, when they have this thing on their head they don't see anywhere else. So I was just like, yeah, I'm going there. So I didn't really think of how hard it was, how expensive, how impossible it would be. I was just like, I'm getting there, I don't care. So I think that was at the beginning. And then it became kind of my life. So it was like, yeah, this is what I'm doing, so I'm going for this. And then, big obstacles, moments of life where, I don't know, you thought that everything was going to go your way, and then it's not, so you want to leave it all, but then, you think back to everything you've done to be here, and you're like, I can't drop it now, I'm going to. So I think it just goes changing, and then like a little bit demonstrate, maybe not the others, but yourself, that you can do it, and then when you did it, you kind of want more, and then you want to become the best driver ever. You want to become the best girl driver, and then the best driver in the world, and that's it. So it's like, it goes changing, but I think that altogether is just this big fire,
That's perfect, because I was going to lead now my second question, or the next question, on that direction, because you are an amazing driver, but people that don't know you, it's important to understand that you work really hard offside the tracks. You here was telling about, it's not that I have a rich family supporting, so you did not start like that. You also did not start really early, like, I don't know, maybe people start when they are really kids, and you start when 19 or less, 17?
Yeah, and my first race was 19.
19, exactly.
Because when I prepped the car was 17, so I took a year and a half, so yeah.
Exactly. So
I didn't even have a license.
It's not that you had to work hard to get there. Like you said, you were also a mechanic, so there was a time you had to email 40 people per day to get sponsorships, and every travel you did was with the money counted. So where do you get all this energy to, despite the challenges?
I mean, there's a bit of everything, like we said before, sometimes you wake up and you're like, I'm so over this, it's so much work for nothing, because, I don't know, when you have a business and you make it work and the business grows, you see it with, you get the money, you get the investment, so you're like, okay, now it's growing, it's working. While in rally, you're still always poor and you're still putting all your money in racing, so you're still in the same spot, but you're just like, oh, now I'm racing instead of the Spanish Championship, I'm going big, I'm going international. So it's like these steps that you almost don't see the difference because you're still in the same spot, but you're doing so much more. So I think that sometimes I feel stuck, but really, in the end of the day, I don't realize that I'm doing so much things, and like now I have the support of I work with other people, which is amazing. Like I never thought I could do that. And now, I have great people around me and that they're working super hard. And then, sometimes they're like, it's like even too much stuff, You're like, how do we handle this? And, also for me that this is my character and this is my 12,000 RPM all the way every day. So for me, it's really hard to, when other people are not on the same 12,000 RPM, I'm like, what? Why are you sitting there? You shouldn't be sitting, you shouldn't be running around here. So it's like, it's just, there's so many things around it, but yeah, for sure, we worked really hard for it. So I'm happy where I am, but I would like more, of course.
I'm happy that you took the conversation that way, because I will later on ask you something about the people that surround us and the importance. But coming back to these, do you consider yourself, to the risks and the going about all the challenges, do you consider yourself a person that is not afraid of taking risks? Or do you prefer to call it as you are a person who you are always all in for every opportunity?
I think a bit of both. So maybe before I didn't care about anything. Like I said before, this was my objective, and everything around it was, I didn't even see it. So like in this case, I had $1,000 in my account, and I felt like, yeah, who cares? I mean, I'm gonna spend all this €1,000 to make it work, you know. And then you think about it now, it's like €1,000 to do one race, maybe it's 40,000, you know. So at that point of my life, I was just very like naive, you know. And so yeah, maybe I was more a risk taker before. Now I'm a little bit more organized, just a little bit, not that much. But now I really much understand how important is these moments, you know, because sometimes the train really passes only one time, and you don't realize after you're like, I won't jump this time, I'll go next time. And then you think about it, it's like, there's no next time? Wow, you know, I should have taken it. So now I try to take my life in this way and really, you know, go for it, because it's the moment. Now it's the moment, and you have to do it, and it's the only way.
And which opportunity of those do you believe was the one that changed most your life, and why?
I think for sure that day that the Corolla passed by and I jumped in the middle of the street was probably the life changer, you know, because if I didn't jump in there, like, who knows if I've ever seen that Corolla again, or, you know, or Danny, the driver, and, you know, his mechanic workshop and everything. I mean, so probably that was like one of the biggest life changer ones. For sure. But I mean, also the American one, the 1 month of sending 40 emails per day, and, you know, with just using this €1,000 to, okay, I'm going to go to this event here. But then they're like, oh, but the flight is €200. No, I'll hitchhike to Portugal. Like, okay, you know, like from Barcelona, hitchhiking to Portugal is kind of crazy. So I feel that also that time when I accepted the selection in the US, I didn't even know where Los Angeles was almost, you know, like, come on, like, selección, yeah, sure, I'm coming. Where? Los Angeles? I'm like, oh shit, how am I gonna get there? You know, and like, so I'm like, yeah, I'm coming. Whatever it is, I'm coming. So, I mean, you never know what you see on the other side. You know, it could have been a bad experience, but I think that you just have to try and make the best out of everything.
I like a lot that spirit and the engagement you have to facing these opportunities and challenges. I want to now to go a little bit more to the mental health topic, because a few months ago, you had an accident in Saudi Arabia during the Extreme Championship. What were your thoughts at the moment of the accident?
I promise, the only thing I thought was, I'm an idiot, I fucked the car, the team is gonna hate me. That was all I thought. And, you know, it was the first race with the team. All I wanted was to demonstrate them they did the right choice. And, you know, it was super frustrating. And it was horrible because the team tells me on radio I was fastest. So that, you know, I was so happy, and it just, you know, it happened. And when it happened, I was in the car, and also I had the time to think. You know, I was trying to keep like this, like safe, like with the hands out of the steering, and then I'm like, no, the car turns back on 4 wheels, I'm going, I'm finishing, I'm winning. So I went back on the steering, and I'm like, this car was still, it was just horrible.
So you were still hoping that the car would stay properly to then continue?
We actually spoke about this with my engineer, which is an amazing engineer. And he was telling me like, oh, you had the gas flat out when you were turning. I'm like, yeah, because if I finish and I go and I can turn. And he was like, okay. So it was amazing. But you know, it's what we say, like, things happen for a motive. So there's a motive. And actually, I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you a news that I am actually going to be driver of the championship for the next race.
Oh, nice! Congratulations.
So I'm, how do you say, like, changing path with Veloce, but it's good for both, so we're fine. So also Lance, actually. So you're probably one of the first people that knows this.
Oh, okay, nice. So I have to. Thank you for sharing. I'm feeling very.
I'm really happy because, you know, I'm very fond of Extreme E as a championship. I really believe everything we talk and everything we do. So I think that it's also good to be there as, you know, as reserve driver, and also work on the track, work on the car, and with the engineering and everything. So I think it's gonna be a good one in Uruguay.
Okay, nice. So it's the opportunities appearing, and then.
For sure.
Thank you for sharing. On this moment, I remember seeing you with this high energy you have and very positive. How was it on the process? Because I believe calmness and patience was something that had to influence you during this period. How was it?
Okay, so I'm telling you because there was like a whole line of up and downs, you know? So I started by being super excited, like, oh, I broke everything, no problem, I'm gonna fix it. And then they're like, oh, you're gonna have surgery tomorrow. Boom, surgery tomorrow means I can race next week, you know? And then the doctor was like, no, 5 months. And yo, 5 months, ¿qué? No, 2 months. And then he was looking at me like, no, this is not negotiating, this is what's happening. And I'm like, I will do it in 2 months, like, so I was super like high revs again. I was like, no problem, this is going to be fixed. I was going rehab 6-8 hours a day, every day. Sundays, they wanted to kick me out. They're like, Christine, just go home, stop coming, and then neuro training with so much technology, which is amazing, that kept me really alive like this whole time. So I did so much stuff all at the same time, and I really didn't have a moment of like, oh, this is a problem, I never saw that. It came kind of after. When I got back into racing, I realized I haven't trained for many months, I'm a little bit rusty. Mentally, I get in the car, and it's not like the fear, but I'm like, you pass your limit, now you have to find back where is the fast, but the limit there, it's been like really hard to get back. And we did a few races, trying to also to get a setup back and everything. So I think there was a lot going on after that. So mentally, yeah, it's been a bit of roller coaster. And I think that now is just the moment that I'm kind of getting up again. Like, we came here to the event with like all the super excitement to meet people, do a lot of things, and hopefully work on like new objectives for next year. So I think it's good and bad at the same time. But it's an athlete life. It's like this. We're always like, oh, wee, and then, oh shit, my life is a crap. And then like this. So also it's like what I was saying yesterday in this speech, actually. We are like a chronometer, we are time. We're not people anymore. We're not athletes. They don't care if you're sad, if today you're not going to perform. It's like you have to have your time there. So it is a little bit complicated when you're coming back from an injury, because you're like, your head is all over the place thinking, so many things at the same time, and you're back, and they don't care. Not they as in the team, but as everything, the race, this is, you have to do this, you have to be back. And fortunately, sometimes it's not like this. So sure, it's been a little bit of up and downs, but I'm sure that this is life of everyone, and everyone feels the same in different levels.
But I can imagine it's hard, because it's the expectations people have, and in the industry and everything. But what elements of your personality think that was important during this recovery, and that you think, this was important for me to be like this?
I think for sure resilience, and my never giving up attitude. This is like always been in my blood. I've always done this, and even though some days I'm like super low, I'm always like, next day I wake up 5 a.m. and I'm like, hey, I'm awake again, I'm doing this. Yeah. So I think that this helped me so much, because if I didn't have that, I would really be so out of this world, like many years ago, many years ago.
And now talking about the people that surround us, you were talking a little bit before. During your recovery, you had a mental coach. How important it was for you, and how important you think is for people to get mental support?
Very, very important. I think we underestimate it a little bit, because, we think, oh, we need a mental coach only if we're not feeling good. And I feel like it's not like that. You have to prevenir en vez de curar sometimes. I don't know if you can translate that, but I don't know. I think I had it because, like I said, I felt good, so I didn't really need it. But I thought, we can work together towards my getting back. And we did. It was really great time together. It was amazing to have someone, that was completely out of your circle, and he would help you to, reach your objective from another point of view. So I think it was great because of that. And also, like we said before, the fact of having so many people supporting me. My friends, I remember on the second week I was at home with my foot in yeso, in the cast. I couldn't do anything, and they're all like writing in the group, oh, we're going for pizza tonight. And I'm like, I can't go anywhere for pizza, I can walk. And they're like, what? You can come pizza. And I'm like, no, I can't, it's fine, enjoy. And they all came to my house, nice. And they picked me up, and I have the videos, and I'm like in the silla of the rey, like this. They were like carrying me on the street, and I was like, hey, with my cast up like this. We got to the pizza place, and then we walked back. And I was with the
wheelchair.
With the how's it called?
I know the name.
Oh, the wooden things, and I was like a bit like Geppetto, and all my friends were walking on one foot also, to like follow me. And so we were like 20 people in the street walking on one foot, and like people walking in the street like these people are crazy, And I thought it was so cool. It was really amazing.
I think that for me, those kind of moments are moments that you keep forever, stories that you remember forever. So I believe that people around us contribute to shaping our personality and mindset, but of course it's within ourselves, But listening to all your amazing stories, there was one that made me smile the most, which was the one where your mother comes and helps you working on the Subaru. That was the older pieces all over. Can you tell about it, that story, and share how was that moment for you?
Yeah, so I think that for me, with like I said before, my family, like when they separated, it was a little bit. And I would never say it was traumatic because I was fine, but of course, my dad didn't agree on me being a race car driver, so he kind of decided to swift away. So I kind of accepted that, but it's a little bit like, okay, you're losing a little part of you, and so it's like you have to a little bit decide, okay, is this so important to lose like a familiar? And you get to a point that for me it was totally worth it. So so I decided my path. But obviously my mom also at the beginning, she was like not against it, but she didn't understand it. It was really hard for her to understand her daughter wanted to become a race car driver if you have absolutely no connection to racing. It's like, okay, what is this? What is racing? So I think that her non-support at the beginning was hard on me, and all of a sudden I think that she realized, like, what am I doing? Why am I not supporting my only daughter to become what she wants? So I think that in the moment that she realized, it's when it happened. And for me it was amazing because I would always come home with like full of dirty, and like with different projects, and like, oh, I have like a part of a escape, of an exhaust, like walking home, and she'll be like, okay, what is this? Like, this is scrapyard stuff, And like one day I had a RAV4, and it's a long story, okay, but let's say I just give you the last part, which I left home with a RAV4, and I came back with a truck. What truck? How's it called? The truck that brings the cars at the back, the tow truck.
Yeah.
Okay, tow truck from 1976, Nissan Trave. That was like clack, 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 and it was insane. So I feel that she was used to these moments and a little bit in shock every time. And this time I came home with a Subaru from my road car, and I looked at it, and I looked at the car, and I felt like she was talking to me, and she was saying like, why am I driving on the street? And I thought, you know what, you're right, you're going to be my race car. So I had the doors of my house that we had like an interior patio. So I thought, I'm going to put the car inside because it was raining a little bit and I'm like, I don't want to get wet. So I put my Subaru inside the house and I start dismounting, the seats and this and that. And of course, imagine my mom, suddenly you get in your patio and you see a freaking Subaru like parked there. So she comes, she's like, "¿Qué pasa?" And I'm like, Mama, this is my new race car. And she's like, what? It's your road car. And I'm like, no, it will be my race car. And she was like, "Da!" And she starts shouting, And I look at her and I'm like, fine, you know what? Don't support me. Just be like everyone else, And this like little Italian drama, and like shouting at her. And she's like, "Bere, bere, bere, bere," and she lands off. And I'm like, huh. And I just keep, taking off stuff. And all of a sudden, after like half an hour, she comes back like dressed up como like if she's going gardening, She's like, and she's
I'm
like
imagining my parents.
Yeah. And she's like, and she looks at me and she's like, okay, what do I do? And so I give her the chicharra, the clack, clack, and I give it to her, and she's like, She didn't want to tell me, like, I don't know how to use this. So she goes, and instead of going, she just goes, and I was just like, Mom, no. And she's like, okay. So it was really nice, and I had a camera like taking all these moments, so it was really beautiful. And then she was there the whole afternoon helping me, and so it was a really nice moment, really bonding moment.
I can imagine it's because I think friends and team, it's nice to have and they help us, but the parents, I don't know, it's something different. There was once a thing that you talked a few times that for me was really powerful, which is understanding now about the limits. Mm-hmm. How are you able to unlock that mindset, that understand that I can go more than the limit I put on myself?
Okay, so for me I'm going to tell you another story that I had. So my first ever race with the Toyota Corolla, after days and nights of hard work, fixing the car, I was so excited. My first race of the Canarian Championship, it was like in an island very far away, so I had to take 3 boats, 3 different islands with my tow truck, which was called Gufito, by the way. So me and Gufito with the taka-taka, like this, the car at the back, and so I was prepared for this like really intense weekend. And I remember the night before I need to put the car on top of my tow truck, I go to start, and Lola doesn't start. And I promise, I was so tired. I was like, I worked so hard and like, and I start like crying my ass off. Like, I'm done with this. Like, seriously, so much work for this shit, then coming here, not starting. And I was like pissed at Lola, talking to her, to my like fucking crazy lady, like, and obviously the car looking at me like, okay. So I was like, I don't know what to do in my life. And Danny, the guy that I met the first time on the street, he looks at me and says, you know what? Take my Corolla. And I was like, no, I can't do that, I can't do that. And he was like, no, take it, because I know how hard you worked for this, and you need to take it. Sorry, by the way, my phone just...
No, okay.
And I was looking at him, with the eyes like so wet, and I just think, yes, I'm taking it. And so I took his car and I go, and it was the same car, but everything else was different. So he didn't have, for example, steering. So direct steering in an old car, it's like driving a truck. So I get to the race, and it was race of La Palma, which is called Isla Bonita, which, bonita until you drive it, because it's like all the roads are like super narrow, super technical, and without steering, he was strong, and I was just a 17, 18-year-old girl just starting to race. So for me, it was like, and I remember the first stage was the worst drive of my life. Like, I couldn't even turn in corners. I ended the rally, my hands were full of bloods over the gloves, like the holes and blood, and I was just like, and like my friends and like my mom, they were there, and they were like, why are you doing this? And I was like, I don't know, I hate it. And I promise that every stage I drove, I thought, I cannot do it. Like, I can't drive more. And then I drove it, and I did the stage, and I arrived to the end, and I was like, how did I do that? And then I went to the next one, and again, more bloods in the hand, and just finished the race. And I just thought, wow. And there is when I understood that you think that your limit is here, that's bullshit. It's not true. It's really not true. And you don't know it until something like this happens, where you see it yourself, and your body and your mind and everything understands that, wow, there is so much more. So,
thank you for sharing. I think it's a really nice, and that's what I also want people to realize, that we can overcome our challenges, sometimes by understanding what's the best procedure, sometimes by really facing the limits, and then understanding, hey, it was just on my head. Christina, I have one last question, because you already kind of replied to the other ones, which was super nice.
Sorry.
No, perfect. If you were, because I love the way you think and how you having a challenge, you try to be creative, going around and try to find solutions. If you were to define successful thinking in one word, which word would it be and why?
Ooh, can't I use successful and thinking? I think successful thinking in one other word could be maybe what you said, being creative. Like, for sure, like you said, there's always going to be something that is not going to let you through, right? A closed door, and you always need to find the other door. So I think that being creative is always going to help you anyhow.
Perfect. Christine, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure having you
great.
and talking to you and get to know more stories. And thank you for sharing also
Thank you. It was
further information. And see you guys on my next episode.
Yay! I'll follow that.